So I'm a bit raw and real today, and I have grappled with whether to get on and speak about this, speak about the unspeakable. A good man was lost today. A good man, a father, a husband, a man who loved family, a man who is devoutly Christian, which I respect. I'm not Christian. I do have firm beliefs in a loving creator. But I respect and admire anybody who is willing to stand up for their values and speak courageously to people who disagreed with him. And he openly went out and sought debate people with people who disagreed. Charlie Kirk was a strong and powerful voice who, whether you agree with him or you disagree with him, this act is despicable. There is no other word for it. And I've seen people of a certain political persuasion celebrating this. And that makes me weep. That makes me weep for humanity, for how we got here. And I've grappled with whether or not to talk about this because my channel is not political, but this goes beyond politics. This goes to the very thing that I am here to fight for, and that is for peace, for love, for freedom, for liberty. I'm on Team Humanity. And no matter what your political persuasion, no matter what your beliefs, I stand for loving each other and standing up for our right to speak to our values, to stand for what we believe in. And this, I believe, will be a massive turning point. So as well as speaking to, and there's been many beautiful words spoken about this man who did not deserve this. Did not deserve this. And there are those who I've challenged on social media saying he was full of hate and he said all these hateful words. I said, what hateful words? And they can't come back with anything. They've got nothing. Because everything, I didn't follow Charlie Kirk closely, but everything I've ever seen of his, he was always respectful and he challenged people. Hell yeah, he challenged people. But he was never unkind, or he never really belittled or diminished people. He might have given them a hard time for their views, but he gave them a place to debate openly against him. And in his own words, he said, when debate stops, when conversation stops, that's when violence emerges. And that's what he sought to stop. And he died as a result. I really admire his courage, his conviction, his willingness to stand up for his values, whether or not you agreed with them, he stood up for his values. Now, if you oppose that right, then you have just declared that you oppose anybody's right to speak to things that you disagree with. Now, if somebody does not have the right to speak their truth to their values, as long as it is respectful, and then why do you have the right to speak yours? Why do you have the right to speak your truth, what you believe is truth, if you are denying somebody else's right to speak theirs? You cannot stand in that place and declare that one person does not have the right to speak to their values and claim that you have the right to speak to yours. They cannot coexist. And this will change the political landscape of America and probably the world. This has been felt across the world. Bibi Netanyahu tweeted praying for Charlie Kirk when we heard the news earlier today. And I'm in Australia. So I don't have the ability to vote in Australian politics. And if I did, a lot of you wouldn't like what my vote would be. And I'm okay with that. And there's a part of me who, while I've been outspoken on Facebook about many things, I have not been outspoken here because I didn't think it was my place to comment on these. And this is not what my channel is about. And I didn't think it was my place to comment. Well, you know what? I have a platform and I have a voice. And we should all start to speak up and use our voices to stand against this kind of political and these kind of heinous acts, which are from coming from a very radical place. And there's radical on both sides. But the violence is coming primarily from one political side. And that's obvious. And I'm not a political animal. I don't consider myself on one side or the other. I'm on Team Humanity. Now, what happens next? I think this will be the catalyst for massive change. Massive change. And in my future content, I'm going to find a way to weave a message of peace, of unity. And I think it's time for all of us to start listening to each other, not just shouting at each other from across the divide. We need to start sitting down and having conversations and not just waiting for the other person to finish so we can dive in and give our viewpoint, but absolutely listening to each other and asking questions and finding out why we have come to the decisions and the positions that we have. What have you seen that I have not seen? And then in the other way, what have I seen that you have not seen? Why have I come to my understanding? Why have I come to my position? Just because we disagree doesn't mean we have to hate each other. You know, I saw another thing on Facebook where somebody basically said, oh, he had such hatred in his soul, basically he deserved what he got. I went, wait a minute. If that's not hateful rhetoric, what is? And I challenged her, and you know what? She deleted it. She had nothing to come back with. Is this who we are? Really, as a species, is this who we are? What I saw of Charlie, and I didn't watch a lot, but I saw enough to see a kind man who loved humanity, who wanted the best for humanity. He was a political activist, and he stood up for Christian values. Like I said, I'm not Christian, but I admire somebody who has the courage to stand up in the face of some of the hatred that he faced and to stand up strongly for his values. And he was a very intelligent man, and he spoke very eloquently, and the world has lost a very bright mind and a beautiful man today. And I think it's all time for us to sit back and reflect and look at where we are going and stop this hatred. It's time to stop this hatred. I just pray and hope that as Charlie Kirk was a catalyst for such enormous change in the United States, that his death will be the biggest catalyst for change that we have seen. Of all the people to target, really? Charlie Kirk? I think whatever God's plan is, I don't understand what God's plan is sometimes. Oh, I'm not Christian, but I believe in God, the universe, source, the creator, the divine. Whatever it is, I think it's the same thing. And I think it's just so important that we do not waste this opportunity, and that his death is not in vain, that we use our voices and that we are careful. I also see a lot of people from the side of the right, and they're angry. A lot of people loved this man. A lot of people loved him, respected him, appreciated him. He was their voice in many ways. So we have to take a breath. We have to respond in a way that we unite humanity, that this is a new beginning, and that whatever happens from this point forward makes Charlie Kirk and his family proud, and that his death was not in vain. If nothing else, this is a time to really reflect on who we are, who we want to be, where we are going, and what we create moving forward. And if you have celebrated this, then you and me are not the same. Then you have a darkness in your soul that I cannot comprehend. Anyway, I love you loads. I don't know what this is, whether this is going to get me a backlash, but come on, people. Come on. Surely we can, as a consequence of this, rise up and unify and come together as a conscious collective and build a world that we really want to live in. All right. I'm not going to talk anymore. Enough has been said. Here's to love. Here's to Team Humanity. Here's to a bright future moving forward.